The NASCAR Xfinity Series race at Martinsville was an absolute disaster. A race that should have been a showcase of young talent turned into a wreckfest, leaving veterans furious and fans frustrated. It was a textbook example of how things have gotten out of control. NASCAR legends like Dale Earnhardt Jr., Denny Hamlin, and Christopher Bell have all spoken out, calling for serious changes. But will NASCAR listen? Let's break it all down. The chaos at Martinsville. Saturday's Xfinity race at Martinsville was supposed to be about skill, strategy, and competition. Instead, it became a demolition derby. Drivers made reckless moves, ignored basic race etiquette, and repeatedly triggered avoidable wrecks, which resulted in a race with 14 cautions, a red flag, and over 100 laps run under yellow. The final corner saw Sammy Smith wreck Tyler Gray in a desperate attempt to take the win, causing a massive pileup and handing an unexpected victory to Austin Hill. Dale Earnhardt Jr. took to X to express his frustration. This racetrack is historic in the grand scheme of all things NASCAR and deserves better. He wasn't alone in his criticism. NASCAR Hall of Famer Jeff Burton chimed in, emphasizing that young drivers today wouldn't last a second against past legends. Some of these guys needed to have the experience of racing with Jack Ingram and Tommy Ellis. This wasn't just another short-track brawl, it was a sign of a deeper problem. Many of today's young drivers with limited short-track experience at the national level rely on over-aggression instead of calculated skill. The result? A race that had more stoppages than actual green flag laps. Denny Hamlin's brutal take. Denny Hamlin, a veteran with strong opinions on racing etiquette, didn't hold back. On X, he called the race what it was, absolute garbage. But he didn't stop there. Hamlin suggested that NASCAR introduce an avoidable contact penalty at Martinsville to prevent such reckless driving in the future. Martinsville is a track that could use an avoidable contact penalty. When fans pointed out that such a rule could be misused under NASCAR's discretion, Hamlin acknowledged the concern but stood by his point. Definitely agree that nobody is voting for that, but there's many people, like anyone with two eyes, that can make these calls. Hamlin has been outspoken about the degradation of racecraft in the lower series, arguing that NASCAR's current system rewards aggression over patience. He sees this as a growing issue that, if unchecked, could spill over into the Cup Series. Denny Hamlin calls out the aggressors. On his podcast, Actions Detrimental, Hamlin named names, calling out 3 drivers in particular.
Austin Hill, Sam Mayer, Sammy Smith, all drove like assholes.
He further added that if he had been in the broadcast booth, he might have gotten fired for being brutally honest about the poor racecraft. Good thing I'm not in the booth, or I'd be fired for calling these guys out. Hamlin's comments highlight a key issue. There are no real consequences for reckless behavior in the Xfinity Series. Without meaningful penalties or accountability from teams, drivers are free to race as aggressively as they want, knowing there's little risk beyond torn-up cars. Christopher Bell's outrage. Christopher Bell, another Cup Series veteran, was equally frustrated. Watching from his motorhome, he couldn't believe what he was seeing. I mean, yesterday was absolutely infuriating. My blood was boiling inside the motorhome watching it. It was a disgrace for our sport. That should not be tolerated, Christopher Bell said. He went on to stress that something must change, and NASCAR needs to demand higher standards from its young drivers. We've got to hold ourselves to better standards than that. That was embarrassing, Christopher Bell added. Bell, known for his precision and respect on track, emphasized that the lack of race control is hurting the sport. When young drivers can crash their way to the front with no consequences, it sets a dangerous precedent that can ruin the integrity of short-track racing. How do we end the drama for good? Brad Keselowski, a former Cup champion and current team owner, had a different take on how to fix the issue. He believes that the responsibility lies with the car owners, not NASCAR. The solution needs to come from the car owners, not NASCAR. Until the car owners are willing to park their drivers for getting this out of control, very little will change. He acknowledged that many owners are hesitant to sit their drivers because of sponsorship money, but he argued that change will only happen if all teams act together. I get that they are all scared to park a funded driver out of fear they will lose the money to continue operations. However, at some point, that's the risk you have to take to get this right. Meanwhile, Hamlin argued that NASCAR itself needs to take more action, saying, "Certainly, I think the sanctioning body needs to get involved a little bit and step in on egregious things. I think it's continued to ramp up, right? We've seen this stuff," Denny Hamlin said. This raises an important question. Who should be responsible for cleaning up the Xfinity Series? Should it be NASCAR officials stepping in with stricter penalties? Or should it be the team owners making an example out of reckless drivers? It's clear that the veterans of the sport have had enough. Dale Jr., Hamlin, Bell, and Keselowski all agree. This kind of reckless, out-of-control racing can't continue. The question now is, will NASCAR actually do something about it? Will team owners start holding drivers accountable? Or will we see another Martinsville-style disaster in the future? Martinsville is one of the most iconic tracks in NASCAR, with a legacy built on clean, hard racing. But what we saw in the Xfinity race was the opposite. It was chaos. If NASCAR doesn't address it now, what's stopping this from happening again? Could we see the Cup Series fall into the same pattern? What do you think? Should NASCAR introduce an avoidable contact rule? Should team owners take a stand? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like and subscribe for more NASCAR insights. See you next time.